Welcome to Higher Ed Live, the live weekly web show all about the world of higher education, where we're all about digital development, professional empowerment. I am your host, Seth Odell. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and hanging out with me again this Sunday night. Very exciting show for you, very exciting guest. I cannot wait to get into all of it, but first, as always, let us say a special thank you to the folks that make Higher Ed Live possible. First, let's say thank you to Integral, the creators of the Schools app on Facebook. Be sure to check out their webinar series about how they can help you leverage Facebook to increase yield and retention. That happens, I believe it's this Friday, sometimes it's Wednesdays. Either way, check out the link I just sent out via Twitter if you want to check out the webinar series. As always, it is a pretty freaking cool tool. Also, big thank you out to Omni Update, the leading web content management system CMS provider for higher education. The company's web CMS OU campus is secure and scalable with great tools and features, deployment flexibility, and an awesome user community. In fact, it was the highest ranked CMS in customer satisfaction in a 2010 EDU Guru survey. So if you guys need a CMS, check them out at omniupdate.com. Not to mention, wonderful group of people over there. And finally, thanks to Scavenger for sponsoring Higher Ed Live. Higher Ed Live is sponsored by Scavenger, a Google-funded mobile game about going places, doing challenges, and earning points. Scavenger is a sponsor for next week's High Ed Web conference. So if you're going to High Ed Web, make sure that you check out the amazing trek they have set up for attendees. It's unleashing the power of Scavenger, taking over the conference. I have a link going out in just a minute. Again, if you guys are attending this conference, check it out and definitely be a part of it. So that is a thanks to our sponsors, but more importantly, thanks to you guys for coming out and being a part of Higher Ed Live. We have a really fun and exciting show today. We're bringing on a repeat guest. That's right. His name is Kyle Bowen. He's the director of informatics at Purdue University. I think I pronounced that correctly. And he is involved with Studio by Purdue, which is one of the coolest things in higher ed. It's essentially an in-house team building and launching a suite of awesome digital technologies designed around the thing that's most important, improving student success. So first and foremost, why don't we bring Kyle on, because it's going to help me a little bit with the Weekly 5 today. So Kyle, welcome back to the show, man. How you doing?
Hey, thanks a lot, Seth. Congratulations on 50 shows.
Hey, thank you so much. Yeah, this is episode 51, so we're so excited about hitting that number, breaking a year, and being here for part of it. So that's really exciting. So thanks for being here, and I'll be back with you in a second, because we're going to dive into the Weekly 5 and take that on. So, guys, the Weekly 5 stories from around the world of higher education that are worth noting, reading, thinking about, starring, or sharing. Well, because that is just what we do. So the first one, great story out of meetcontent.com about the future of public relations in higher ed. Just really great article, hearing from a lot of different folks in the industry about what's the future of higher ed. Do press releases still have a place? What is digital storytelling? Great article, guys. Definitely go out and check this out. I got a link going out now, but this was just a really great read. You know me, I'm a PR guy, loved the article, and I definitely think it's one that needs to be on everybody's to-read list, just in case you missed it when it went out earlier this week. Coming up next, actually, we're going to skip ahead to a college student that was banned for complaining about branded debit cards. Very weird and interesting. Essentially, the school had the student IDs were linked to a debit card that students had to use to get the grants they were given, and their information was shared with banks. And the student complained. He did say some sort of inappropriate things on Facebook, and in turn, what happened to him was, well, he got banned and kicked out of school. It was really shady all the way around. I would look into this story, guys. It's really kind of an interesting one. I think it's unfortunate by any stretch of the imagination, and just brings up really kind of the gray area when schools start to partnership with financial institutions. Coming up next is one of the bigger stories of the week, which was that Pearson's has teamed up with Google to offer a free learning management system. Very interesting. Anytime Pearson's and Google team up, you want to listen. I think that's pretty interesting, but Kyle, this is more your space than mine with student success learning. But I'm just curious, what are your thoughts on the Pearson's Google team up with the free LMS? Should we be following this? Should we be worried if you're using something else?
This is a really interesting development. Pearson comes into this initiative with about a 1% market share on the LMS. Clearly, it's a move to try and disrupt the market, see what they can do there. The real X factor here, I think, is they're teaming up with Google to make this happen. So schools who are already Google Apps for Education users, I think this will be a possible win for them. The other big change here is that they're beginning to deliver or market these types of services direct to faculty. So faculty who aren't happy with whatever LMS they're currently using on their campus, this gives them a viable alternative that's free.
Yeah, very interesting. It's just something I think very good points, really worth following. They're aiming to disrupt the market, and I think there's definitely a good chance that they're going to do that. So what's next on the Weekly 5? The FAFSA is absolutely crazy. That's what's up. Some of you know that I had some tweets going out earlier this week about the FAFSA, but first and foremost, interestingly enough, that for children of same-sex couples, there is nowhere to fill that out on the FAFSA form. So a lot of students with same-sex coupled parents are having some serious problems, and the government is incredibly slow to respond to that. And also, if you followed my Twitter stream this week, I noted that you can't even access the FAFSA form on Chrome, Safari, or Firefox, at least not the most current versions. So I don't know. That is just a really disappointing thing all the way around, and somebody needs to get their butt in gear and get that site working, get those forms updated. That's what I have to say about that. And lastly, on the Weekly 5, I actually have to ask for your help, guys. HigherEdLive is saying goodbye, see you later to Sunday nights, and starting in November, we're going to be bringing our live weekly web show into the middle of your work week. We are aiming at possibly Tuesday, Thursday, 1 p.m., 4 p.m., I'm asking you. I have a survey going out right now. When do you want to see us broadcast? Because we have decided to make the leap from late weekends, although that's still an option on the survey if you really want us to stay put, into the middle of your work week, and we want to try that, shift it up a little bit. So the survey's out. Please let me know when you guys want to see us broadcast, because it is most important to me that we can get the content to you. So next up, let's dive right in and keep going. We unsolicited shout out of the week, where I shout out any person, place, thing, or idea. Why? Because I can. It's my show. That's what you get to do when you have your own show. So this week's shout out goes to the HigherEdWeb Conference coming up in just 1 week in Austin, Texas, October 23rd to the 26th. Why am I shouting out this conference? Not only because it's an awesome conference, which I'm incredibly excited to be attending, but I'm shouting it out because for those of you that can't attend the conference, I have good news. There's going to be a special HigherEdLive next Sunday. There's going to be another special, super secret, I haven't even told anybody until I just told you guys now, event coming up on Monday night, super top secret, but I guess it's not so secret anymore. I just talked about it. And also, we're going to be streaming all the Red Stapler presentations that we can on Wednesday, at least 2 rooms going simultaneously. So if you guys can't make it to HigherEdWeb, we are going to be there for you. I'm going to be doing interviews in my hotel room, interviews in the hallway. We're going to be streaming all Wednesday. We're going to be streaming on Monday, streaming on Sunday, whatever we can do. If you can't make it, we're bringing it to you. And if you can make it, find me so we can get you guys talking on HigherEdLive. That is all about HigherEdWeb and HigherEdLive. I guess I just spilled the beans on something going on Monday, but what are you going to do? That's what this show's about. It's live. Can't really take that back. So that's the unsolicited shout out of the week, and it's time to dive into the weekly topic, which, let's be honest, when I was talking about doing this weekly topic, I wanted to talk to Kyle about Studio by Purdue and his latest offerings, but we couldn't even nail down one thing because these guys are so busy with what they're doing. So there's a lot of stuff we're going to cover tonight, but first and foremost, we're going to cover the future of ebooks and why the future of ebooks isn't ebooks at all, because Studio by Purdue has some pretty cool stuff going on. So Kyle, I don't know where we even begin, but just in case some of our viewers didn't see the last show when you came on and talked about Studio by Purdue, do you mind just kind of introducing yourself a little bit and talking about what Studio by Purdue is and the kind of products you guys have launched in the past, so that way people have a bit of a framework for today's conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm director of informatics here at Purdue, and I lead a development team of very talented people. And what we do is we focus on new technology that can help improve student success through meeting learning outcomes or engaging students in the classroom through a number of different means. And we've developed tools. 2 years ago was our first major initiative with Hot Seat, which was really designed to engage students during lectures using Twitter or text messaging, Facebook, a number of different mediums, and engaging them in a live back-channel conversation inside of the classroom. From there, we developed tools like Mixable, which essentially builds study groups inside of Facebook, and another one called Double Take, it would enable students to create videos as homework assignments within their classes. So if you think about, American Sign Language, for example, no possible way to do a homework assignment, a written assignment in American Sign Language. And so using tools like Double Take makes that possible.
Very, very cool. And again, a lot of the products you guys put out is so cool. And just again, one more time before we get into it, tell me a bit about how Studio by Purdue came about, because it's so amazing to me that Purdue is so behind something like this. What's the team like? What's the backbone like for an organization like this?
Sure. So within the development team, like I said, we have a group of very talented people, about half programmers, half designers, and they're really, the focus is on how do we develop this new technology. A few years ago, we when we developed Hot Seat, really how we did it, it wasn't a major move by the institution. It wasn't, that there was some directive came down that says, okay, we need to move our pieces in this direction. It was essentially a group of people saying, you know what, there's the technology here. We can make a change inside of the classroom to engage large lecture classes, engage students in the tools they're already using. It might be fun to experiment with this. And so we shaved some time off of some different projects, got some developers together, and we were able to put Hot Seat into the classroom. And based on the success of that, we've started to build that out, and that's where the institution has started to make investments in wanting to see that happen, wanting to see that become more successful.
Very, very cool. And, we had you on the show, geez, months and months ago to talk about a lot of these things. But you guys just don't stop developing, and you have some really cool stuff going on now. So, I mean, without further ado, I kind of pegged a lot of this saying, what is the future of ebooks? You guys have an offering that I think is just so unbelievably cool. So why don't you tell all of us about Jetpack? Because
Sure.
this is something, guys, if you're watching, you're going to want to pull out your pen or at least check the link we just tweeted out. This is a big deal.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, so we're really excited about Jetpack. We announced it this week. This is a new project that we're working on that'll be in pilot in the spring and launch more fully this summer. Essentially, what it does is it delivers learning material, publishes learning materials to mobile devices. So essentially, it begins to question some of the underlying issues with what we see in textbooks today. For example, why are they still books? Let alone the printed books, but even an ebook, it's just another book. I mean, even if you on some devices even still has page turning animations and these kinds of things. So it really questions, why is book still the metaphor that we're using? I mean, it's a generations old model, and in many ways we've moved beyond in terms of our technical capabilities, beyond just text and images. So what Jetpack does is it enables faculty to build and self-publish their own ebook. And really what it is, it's more of an ebook mobile app hybrid. And so they can build in interactivity using HTML5, rather than some kind of proprietary language to make it happen. But then they can also embed their own interactive media, whether that be video or podcasts, or they can also, like I said, have embedded assessments or custom interactivity. And what it does is it puts it into a downloadable pack, is what we call it, that actually downloads and saves on your phone. So the reason for that, and what's really important about that, is that means that you're truly enabling learning anywhere, not just anywhere with an internet connection. And which is important when you consider that downloading rich media over a 3G connection, one, it's slow, but two, it'll eat up some data plans, because we can't necessarily count on all-you-can-eat data, and maybe even the days of all-you-can-eat data are going to go by the wayside soon. So what we have to do is make it so they can truly access this material anywhere. And that's what's unique about Jetpack, is it actually puts it right there on the device.
That is awesome. Yeah, first and foremost, I have to say, the thing I think is so cool is the fact that you guys are not approaching ebooks as being books at all. I mean, realistically, there's so much about ebooks out there now that are really just glorified PDFs. And it's amazing to me. There's some folks doing some cool things. There's books out there, and there's some other interesting pockets of innovation. But it does seem that when you guys have approached Jetpack, you've definitely approached ebooks as not being like that at all. You've essentially approached utilizing, learning, delivering the same kind of information that a book used to deliver, but on a platform that makes sense, that people are using, and being able to interact with them. So I generally got to say hats off, because I think that's so cool that this is just so far beyond what most schools are talking about when they're offering ebooks for their courses. I got to ask first off, though, I mean, how time intensive is building one of these things? Because I was pulling up some screen shares. I'm showing like the Amelia Earhart iPad photos. How much work goes into building these things? Because they look really, really nice.
Sure. So, it's variant. Essentially, what we wanted to do with Jetpack was to use more of a blogging model in terms of its authoring. Writing or publishing learning material should be as easy as blogging. It should be more like blogging and less like actually setting type on a press in order to create some of this material. And so that's where through the Jetpack authoring interface, it takes a lot of that work out of it. For example, the delivery of video or interactive media to mobile devices, Jetpack puts everything in the right formats. It downsamples images. It takes a lot of that. It makes it such that the instructor doesn't have to know all of the ins and outs of the delivery medium in order to publish. And then the other part of it is that it gives the flexibility to do really outstanding layouts or things that are truly out of the ordinary. So on one end, it's the more simplified templated interface, but on the other end is the highly stylized, very specific layouts. For example, the Amelia Earhart piece, that's an example of where a pack that's been, laid out by a professional with all the graphics, but yet that same interface then gets deployed out to multiple different platforms. So it's accessible via the web or on an iPad or via different devices. So all of that media gets packaged up for them. So it gives that flexibility in terms of, for the instructor who just wants to deliver their instructional media versus the one who actually wants to create more of a specific experience or develop let's say, a mini application out of it.
Now, just here's one big thing just to clarify for folks that are out there that are hearing this, thinking it's really cool. This is not a Purdue-only launch. So talk about what this is going to mean in the future. What's the timeline for rolling this out? And how can people in other institutions tap into the power of this?
Sure, yeah. So what we're doing right now is we're finalizing the actual technology itself, the authoring interfaces and the deployment to the actual mobile devices, so the publishing all works. And there's if you want to try it out, there's an app. You can get the Jetpack Reader app out of the Apple iStore, download that to your phone and play around with it a little bit. This spring we'll be implementing it in a couple of classes. So we'll have one course on electrical computer engineering technology, and whereas the instructor there has a textbook that he has published in the past and sold to his students, he will now be delivering that through Jetpack and giving it to his students as digital media. And then we have a secondary example, which comes to us to veterinary sciences, where we have an instructor who deals a lot in neurobiology. So dogs who have brain injuries or spinal injuries, these kinds of things. And so if you kind of think about what it takes to diagnose an animal with a condition like that, we're talking about various forms of interactive media, whether it be MRIs, X-rays, videos of the animal, videos of the actual assessments of the animals, these kinds of things. So it basically creates a way to package up that material. So we have a couple of very good examples coming up in the spring, and then our intent is that this summer we'll be launching it more widely and making it freely available to other institutions to be able to publish their own material through the Jetpack environment. So we're really excited about the possibility of making this available to other institutions.
And just to clarify, you just said free.
Yeah, that's the intent.
That's
so
awesome.
Essentially, we're excited about it because what we've done is we've architected the system so that institutions can develop and publish their own packs without having to give up control or ownership of that content. And essentially, Jetpack just becomes the delivery vehicle for that content. And so, whereas we can help other institutions or instructors at other institutions, package up that content, but then we can, and then also then deploy it or publish it out to different kinds of mobile devices.
Great, very cool. So we got a couple of questions coming in. First, when we talk about powering it out to other mobile devices, let's talk a little bit more about that because a question came in that you're demoing a lot of this stuff on the iPhone, the iPad. Is there going to be, what about the Android version? When are we going to get this to, all devices? Like, what's the future plan for rollouts like that? Where do you see this going? What devices? How far is the reach going to be for Jetpack in the future?
Good question. So by the end of the year, what we'll have is on iPhone and, basically your iOS devices, so iPhone, iPad, but then we'll also have it available on Android by the end of the year. It'll also be available as a online accessible media as well, so that for those students who don't have mobile devices, they can still use their laptop or their desktop and access the exact same material and have access to the same types of interactivity, these kinds of things. So it'll be pretty much widely available. And what we're finding in terms of our own studies with students really looks at the vast majority of smartphone owners really falling into that iOS, Android category.
Now, here's another big loaded question for you coming right from Patrick Powers about asking, does Jetpack content get peer-reviewed the same way textbooks and journal articles do? And I think that opens a larger question, which is, is your goal to work with large publishers and replace current textbooks? Is it to allow, instructors to self-publish, or is it to eventually do both?
I would say it's both. We have an opportunity to publish content a number of different ways. So really the initial intent at first is to enable our instructors to self-publish a lot of this media. but at the same time, that doesn't preclude offering up, more peer-reviewed pieces. But then at the same time, what we're really looking at is how can we do more to kind of democratize that peer review process. The other part of it is that peer review has typically looked at traditional publication, and what the pack is it's more non-traditional because these packs can be collections of interactive media. So rather than being an actual textual ebook, it can be a package of video or package of interactivity or a problem-based learning set or some type of in-class active learning type of module. So there's a wide variety of applications in terms of what a pack actually is.
And there's and peer review is a really very fair and valid tool in a lot of textbooks. But I brought up here one point too is it's that with peer review, the only way something can be peer reviewed is if it's completed and if it's done. And ideally, I mean, what I've read too, which this is kind of an expansion question for you, that you guys are hoping to utilize APIs in this so that, your packs will never necessarily be finished. It's the kind of thing that could be living and updating and moving. And again, that brings up the kind of thing that peer review can't handle that. Peer review can't handle the fact that from second to second, this might be updating. So what are your thoughts for APIs? Because I do think that's a really big leap to say that these aren't going to be static, that these can be living packs that can actually grow on their own. That to me is pretty exciting.
Yeah, so there's really kind of two ways to look at that. One is, like you said, that you have elements of a pack which are kind of a live view of a particular topic, because the most timely information on it, let's say political science, for example, especially in an election year, what better teaching experience is there than what's actually going on around you? So the idea of actually publishing that material is kind of counter to what would actually be best in terms of its delivery inside of the classroom. The other way to look at that also is that because the packs are designed to be topical or very small in nature, an instructor doesn't have to write all of them at once. Much the same like when you publish a textbook, you have to write the entire textbook before you can publish it. In this case, you can actually write it out a piece at a time and make progressive enhancements to it as you go. So the first semester you offer it, maybe it's just a simple, ebook type of media with some video embedded. But then as time goes on, you can further enhance that material as you move forward.
Now, another question that came in that opens up a broader one is, do you think professors will sign up for this as they often make money off their textbooks? And this brings up I think I'll expand it if that's all right, to a bit of a broader question, which is, how are you going to affect the model in the sense that a lot of this isn't going to be revenue-based? If it's a free to use, how do you see this fitting into the model? Do you think people will come, or is the textbook industry to the point where people are going to hold on to it as long as possible if they're still making revenue off it? Where do you guys see yourselves fitting in with that?
Sure. So I guess it's a three-part answer. The first being, the initial intent here is delivery of open learning resources or open learning content. There are a number of people who currently publish this material, and that's the intent, is that rather than having very genericized material that applies broadly to different markets, faculty can focus on specific niche areas to deliver that content and release it openly. So that's kind of answer one. Answer two becomes it's also private content. So an instructor can deliver these packs in the context of just their course. So keep it inside of that walled garden. Maybe these are videos that are proprietary to their research or something along those lines. And then the third aspect of this is the longer view, is that we do plan to introduce a paid model into this so that instructors can sell these packs independently. So really what we're looking to do is turn this really more into like an app store model for learning material.
Well, this is awesome. I really can't tell you how excited I am. This is really, really amazing stuff. I have a feeling we're going to be hearing about it for years, honestly. I think this is the very early stages of something really, really big and cool. So I appreciate you coming on and talking about that. But the problem, guys, is that this is not the only thing that Studio by Purdue is doing. In fact, they have a lot more going on, which is why I want to have Kyle on the show. So Jetpack, wow, cool. But talk to me for a second about the mobility study that you guys have been working on too, because not only do you develop your own stuff, but you guys do a lot of research too to find out what people are using, why they use it. And it seems you were telling me about the mobility study, and it's got some interesting feedback on how students, what they prefer for mobile applications and whether it's native or not and how they use it. Just expand on the information because I think it's pretty interesting stuff.
Sure, yeah. So we've been working on, over the past couple of months, a mobility study really focused on what are student perceptions related to mobile applications or use of the mobile web, right? So they're really kind of focused on those areas in particular. And what we've done, we studied over 1,000 students ranging from freshman to graduate student, and pretty much all over the board. Almost all of them were actual smartphone owners. And for those who are interested, there were about 5% more Android owners than iPhone owners in that bunch. But those together equaled over 85% of the total sample. And really what we were wanting to know about were what were the students' perceptions of using mobile applications versus their perceptions of using the browsers on their phones. Because in developing this technology, we went off when we first started doing this 2 years ago. We were really focused on developing for the mobile web because we believe that's where the future was, on the mobile device. And I still think it is, but the problem is we're not getting there near as fast as we had planned to. And the other part of it is what, we never really assessed how do people think about mobile applications in terms of using their phones and also using them in the context of instruction. So that's what led to our study. And we're kind of working through analysis now, but in terms of high-level information that was kind of interesting in terms of things we were learning, part of it was about 70% of the students responded said that they believed that their mobile apps were faster than their web apps. At one degree or another. So it didn't really, even though they may have been accessing the exact same content, it was their perception that the mobile app was actually faster to do that. And likewise, similarly, another 70% found that the mobile app was easier to use when compared to a web app. Again, when looking at kind of an apples-to-apples comparison of accessing the same kinds of information. So those were very telling to us in terms of how people think about these mobile apps. We also learned some interesting things, like a third of the students surveyed said that they would never download or even think to download a video when not connected to Wi-Fi. Right, so here you have a third of your students that would not sit in a classroom and download a video as part of a supplement unless they had some type of Wi-Fi connection. And then the other one that was really telling to us from a design standpoint was that a quarter of the respondents said that they, when using the browser on their phone, preferred the regular website over the mobile website. So they, and then another quarter said that they had no real preference related to the two. So these were some interesting data points to us, just kind of looking at it. But just by and large, the mobile app was preferred in almost every teaching and learning administrative category, with the exception of one where it more or less broke even, which was dealing with an internet search. So if they were going to conduct some type of internet search, half the respondents said they do it using a mobile app, and the other half said they do it in their browser. But that was really the only category in which the mobile web scored close to the mobile app.
That is an unbelievable amount and wealth of information. And the folks on Twitter are all asking about it. Guys, the cool thing to note is that this has not been published information yet. We're actually getting a sneak peek tonight. So first off, that's really cool for us. I appreciate you sharing it, because it's the first time it's been publicly discussed. So awesome to be able to hear this stuff. For those of us that are watching and want to have this kind of data, want to really dig into it, when do you think it's going to see the light of day? When are you guys going to be done crunching it and get this stuff public so we can dig through each and every number that you are talking about?
If things go as planned, it should be in November.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, we're going to be looking out for it. Let me know when it's out, and of course I will tweet it out and share it. It'll be, weekly number 1 of the weekly 5, I'm sure. But there's so much information in there, because at the end of the day with this stuff, we talk a lot about emerging technologies and what it can do, but just as important is how it's perceived by the user. And there's a big gap sometimes between what it can do and what's better, and and what people want. This is the same thing people talk about, wanting applications, and I think definitely overestimating the power of applications, and a lot of it's cultural, and there's so much in there. I'm excited to dig into it. So the next big thing is that a lot of people hear about what you guys are doing at Studio by Purdue, and it's really exciting stuff, and people want to be a part of it. So you guys have something that's being launched that's really, really cool. I'm excited to talk about tonight, which is called the Test Pilot Program. Tell me about that, and what does it mean for everybody watching at their institutions?
Sure. So what we're trying to do with Test Pilot is really deliver this technology to other institutions, but do it in such a way that it advances education. So really that was the real driver behind Studio by Purdue, was to develop new instructional models or enable types of instruction that hadn't been possible before. And a big challenge with doing that is, beyond just the technology component, is the research component. We can do a certain degree of it here, but in reality we want to see how this technology affects classrooms in different types of scenarios. So what we're doing with the test program is we'll be supporting other institutions with the use of the technology in exchange for research on the topic. We'll be starting out with Mixable next semester, and so we'll be putting out essentially what is kind of like an inverted call for proposals, where essentially we ask for people to tell us, okay, what aspects of this tool are interesting to you, and how would you, what is your research interest on the topic, and then we'll support that institution in its use of the technology as part of a research endeavor. And so we're really excited about that, because really what that means is that we can continue to develop kind of new innovative tools, and then we can also support other institutions in kind of the development of new pedagogy around not only mobile technology but social technologies as well.
Well, that's a load of information. I just wanted to say that's awesome that you guys are working on that. I think it really kind of shines on your mission and why you guys are doing what you do and staying true to that. But you guys are really shaking up the industry, and launching things like that's going to be really exciting for other people to be a part of it and to really utilize these tools. So I got to honestly just thank you for doing that, because what you guys are putting out is some really amazing stuff, and it's some pretty innovative stuff. And that brings me to my last question of the evening, which is a loaded question, which we've talked about here before on HigherEdLive. People have come on before and said that higher ed should not be in the software development business, that it's a waste of resources for all these different schools to be building similar things and trying to build something that could be privately available. And why would you trust a higher ed developer to build something when there's someone that works full-time on this one thing? All sorts of stuff. So the question is, though, looking at Studio by Purdue and the stuff that you guys have coming out, is pretty strong evidence that higher ed as software developers can really work. I mean, it's hard to look at the stuff you guys have launched and argue against that. So let me ask you, where do you see, IT and higher ed fitting and doing their own development? I mean, I know it's a loaded question, but as someone who's done this stuff successfully and you guys have a team of people working on it, I have a feeling you might think differently than some other folks who have talked about it before on the show.
Sure, yeah, so this is a good question. I guess I'd start off by saying I think we need to wake up, because we are in the software development business, whether we want to be or not. If you talk to, let's say, somebody who worked in the travel industry about 10 years ago and ask them, are you in the software business, or should you be in the software business? They'd probably tell you no. But that was right before people like Expedia and Orbitz came along and ate their lunch for them, right? And we're kind of in the same scenario now, where essentially software is our ability to apply business intelligence to, whether it be teaching and learning, or to research, or any facet of higher education. And software is a big part of that. So what we have, and really, if we're going to enable new forms of instruction, it's going to be through developing new technology to do that. And that's, and what that means for IT is that we are uniquely positioned to deliver that technology. We have a lot of those skills now, and so it just makes it makes sense to try and meet that, because one, what you can do is begin to better meet the strategic needs of university in terms of the core mission of teaching, learning, and research, but then also provide strategic advantage to your institution. There's a really good example. It's kind of an extreme example, but it happened here recently, where Phoenix, University of Phoenix, right? Everybody's probably seen their commercials, familiar with them, for-profit education. They went and bought Carnegie Learning. So imagine a scenario where your institution is going out to buy software, but they're not buying software, they're actually buying the software company in order to give themselves strategic advantage in the market. And so, this technology can be developed internally, especially for those institutions who have faculty where this is an area of research. And really, I think it's a big opportunity for us, because we can begin to differentiate ourselves through developing new types of software.
Hey, I think that's a pretty, locked argument right there. I am definitely with you. You guys have the toolkit to back it up. You guys have the resume to back it up. I think it's a really fair argument. I think it's really interesting. I think that Purdue has placed itself in the market where you guys are going to be way ahead of everybody else in 5 years, 10 years, and things are changing. I'm really excited to see what happens. Just briefly, for folks that are watching this, again, you guys churn out a lot of stuff. You guys do have, I think it's an email newsletter or something of some kind, right, on your site, where if folks want to keep up with what you're working on, they can get updates?
Yeah, if you go to purdue.edu/studio, you can learn more about some of our projects, and then there's also an email list you can sign up for. Yeah, where as we make new announcements and whatnot, we make them available there, and as we come out with a call for proposals for test pilot, we'll use that same list to do that as well.
Awesome. Well, listen, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show tonight. I mean, Jetpack, I'm incredibly excited about, but almost more so than that, even the test pilot program alone is going to be really exciting to see what other schools can do to utilize the tools. Is really opening it up. I mean, again, hats off to you guys with what you're working on. It's pretty amazing stuff.
Oh, thanks a lot, Seth. It's a lot of fun, and I'm glad to come on your show and talk about it.
Awesome. Now, one last plug. You're actually speaking at EduCause this week. Is that correct?
Yeah. Hey, thanks for letting me make a plug on that.
Anytime.
Thursday afternoon at 1:30. If you're not going, and you know someone who is, tweet them, send them an email, let them know. Thursday afternoon at 1:30. There are a lot of great speakers in that time slot, so I got a really tough slot. I got to get some butts in the seats. So, if you know somebody's going to EduCause, I'd love to see them. Like I said, Thursday afternoon at 1:30.
Cool. All right. Well, your Twitter handle, for people that want to know, it's Kyle D. Bowen, Bowen. So we'll be watching your Twitter stream. We'll be happy to retweet. I know I will, at least. Whatever I can to get people to see your presentation, because if it's anything like the information you shared tonight, it's something people are not going to want to miss. So, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight, Kyle. I really can't thank you enough. I'm so excited about what Studio by Purdue is doing, and I just, can't wait to see what happens next, and I can't wait to see what people say about Jetpack 5 years from now, because I have a feeling they're going to look back, and this is going to be even bigger than we could even imagine now. So, thanks for coming on.
Thanks a lot, Seth.
Awesome. And thank you guys for watching this episode of HigherEdLive, one of the last ones coming at our regular time slot on Sundays, because as I said, we are switching and trying to move to the middle of the week. But next week, we are still on Sundays, but we are 1 hour later, roughly. I have a very unique show, live from HigherEdWeb. I'm interviewing a van. That's right, my guest is actually Marv, a 1973 converted RV, which is owned by Welcome to College, and this thing is crazy. It talks, answers questions, has hydraulics, has a confetti cannon, and has its own internet. So my guest will be a converted RV that helps students find out where they want to go to school. What can I say? Only here on HigherEdLive would my guest be an RV. So that's what it's going to be next week. I hope you guys can make it to HigherEdWeb. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be presenting, going to be streaming, doing whatever I can. But if you can't, I will bring it to you. That is my promise. So thank you guys, as always, for watching. And for always watching, HigherEdLive.com. And please fill out the survey on when you want to see us move, what new time slot, because we're trying to shake things up, and I'm trying to get this content to you in the easiest format possible at the time that works best for you. So thank you guys for watching. I will see you again next time on Higher Ed